YouTube, what the crap's going on? Welcome to the Queen and the Crone. I get the distinct privilege of giving you some early access here, and today I'm going to focus on Avalorn and the Queen, Alarielle the Radiant. But not just her, I'm going to focus on one of the special units that came into the game with her on this update, which is the Sisters of Avelorn. So I'm going to talk you through the stats. While that's going on, I'll put some cool views on your screen so you can see a little bit about what these units are and what they're used for, and I'll be kind of flipping back and forth between some B-roll. So I do hope you enjoy this to get you prepared to know how to best use Alarielle and the Sisters of Avelorn. I will have more videos coming up that cover, obviously, Crone Halibron and some of the special units that come with her there too. So should be a lot of fun. Let's jump into this. Bellario the Radiant is going to be a spellcaster lord, which means, as expected, pretty low hit points, low armor, but cool looking nonetheless. And I think the giant ponytail gives her some kind of special missile resistance. So she's going to have pretty low weapon strength at 300. Her charge bonus is pretty miserable. Melee defense is actually pretty decent at 55, not spectacular, but decent. And her melee attack is 45, and it's magical attacks. So it will make her good against stuff that has physical resistance, but at 15 armor and 36 speed, she's going to be pretty vulnerable. So definitely something to be aware of. But she comes packing a lot of powerful magic. Before we get started, let's talk through some of the mounts that she comes with. The first is the Elven Steed. The Elven Steed is going to give her 90 speed. It's going to increase her hit points by 306. That's an increase of 54 in speed if you were curious. And then an extra 15 charge bonus. So it's going to make her very fast, make her a lot harder to catch. The next mount is a Barded Avalor Steed. Now this is going to give her an extra 306 hit points, another 35 armor. So this gives her a little more armor. There's an extra 42 speed, so not as fast as the Elven Steed. And it's going to give her the extra charge bonus as well. All right, last is the Great Eagle. And the Great Eagle adds a whopping 894 hit points, which she will badly need. Her armor actually goes up by 15 to 30, but still going to be low armor. And then the speed jumps up 74 to 110 from the base. So this is where she's going to be her fastest, even faster than the Elven Steed. Still magical attacks, same melee defense, but her weapon strength jumps to 390 because of the Eagle, and the charge bonus jumps up to 62. So in terms of mounts, which one do you want to use and when? If you want Alarielle to be harder for really big monsters to hit because she gets knocked around, you want to keep her on foot, but she's still going to be pretty weak, so you have to be careful and pretty slow. If you put her on the Elven Steed, your goal is going to be to keep her moving. Don't let anybody catch her. She's going to be relatively fast, and it's relatively low cost. If you're looking for something to make her just a little bit tankier, you might want to try the Barded Avalor Steed, because this one's going to take her armor all the way up to 50. May not sound like a lot, but it's a lot better than what she had, and it's only 200 gold, so not a bad choice. Finally, the Great Eagle. This is going to be the one you want to pick if you want to make her both fast and battlefield mobile. So the only thing to be careful of here is a lot of dragons, a lot of missiles, other things in the game you'll have to be aware of. She does have some missile resistance, but you'll have to be quite careful. It also gives her the fear trait when she's on the Eagle, so she can scare enemy units. Now in terms of abilities, she comes with some abilities that we're familiar with. Life Bloom is whenever she's spell casting, it's going to trigger some healing of the combatants for 5 seconds, so gives you a little bit of extra hit points while spell casting. Also, we've got the Shield of Sapphire, which is going to provide an 11% boost to damage resistance while casting to all allies map-wide. Then we've got the Boon of Issa. Now this is an augment, and it's only going to act, well, it affects all the allies in range, it's constant, and it imbues magical damage and makes them immune to psychology. So this can be a good thing to keep her close to units that are going to be experiencing fear or terror. Also, if there's ethereal units nearby, bringing Alarielle the Radiant close to those ethereal units to help buff the allies in combat, it can help a whole lot. She's also got access to Arcane Conduit, which we all are familiar with, and improves power recharge rate and increased reserves. Now, in terms of spells, she's actually got a lot of really good spells. She's got some from the Lore of Light, some from the Lore of Life, and some from the High Lore. The Lore of Light spells are Faw's Protection and Banishment, two very nice spells. Faw's Protection is very cheap in magic cost, only 5 mana, and gives a whopping 30 armor buff and 27 melee defense. Great way to keep your allies in the fight longer. Banishment, of course, is a vortex spell, which is dealing magical damage and is quite good against armor and other things. If you can get an enemy to blob up, it is quite a powerful spell. From the Lore of Life, we have Earthblood and Shield of Thorns. Earthblood we're all pretty familiar with. It's going to last for 7 seconds unless you overcast it. It's going to heal all allies in range. The Shield of Thorns is great against, so you put it on an ally and it affects all the allies in range, 40-meter radius. It gives extra weapon damage and missile resistance. Tempest is going to be another vortex spell, except this one impacts flyers. So it's going to give her some defense against flyers. Like if you put her on their eagle and you're really worried about getting caught up with other ones, you could give her the Tempest, and it's a good way to slow down enemy flyers who are coming after you, or to stop them from dive bombing you. On top of that, with a huge magic cost, she has Arcane Unforging, which does a lot of damage to a single combatant target. So this is going to be her main defense against other lords who are trying to attack her, either that or fleeing. Now in terms of her special items, she has the Shieldstone of Issa, which is going to be a constant effect of 12% physical resistance to all allies within 40 meters. That's a pretty huge buff. Physical resistance is great, especially if your opponents have no magical damage. Then she has the Stave of Avelorn, which is a one-use ability that gives extra power recharge rate and a 100% miscast chance reduction, meaning if you use it, she's not going to miscast. So if you have something in mind for it, it can be an interesting item. And finally, she has the Star of Avalorn, which she can use, and it lasts for 27 seconds. It'll affect up to a max of 3 allies in range, and you can target yourself, the ground, or an ally, and it's going to start healing. And the effect range is 15 meters. So it can be used twice in battle. So it gives her the ability to put some extra healing onto units. So she is going to be a support spellcaster. That is going to be her role in the game. Definitely going to be an interesting lord, in this case a lady, and I think that she's going to be a lot of fun. She has a lot of special campaign traits that we'll cover in a separate video where I look at the campaign start positions. But for now, I think this gives us a good look for her as a character. Alright, let's move on and cover the special unit that came in with her, which is the Sisters of Avelorn. Now, some of you might, aren't there regiments around? There are. We'll cover those soon. But let's start off with these Sisters of Avelorn and keep the video focused on those. So, they have armor-piercing missiles, long range, they're pretty decent in melee, and they have the Bows of Avalorn, which are magical bows. So there's flaming and magic damage from their missile ammunition. At 180 range, they have a huge range. The missile damage is 25, and out of that, armor piercing is 15. So this is a considerable amount of armor piercing. Now, the real drawback to the Sisters of Avelorn is the price. At 1100, it's pretty significant. However, they have martial prowess, which means that they're going to get an extra 12 melee defense and 2 attacks. So when they enter combat, as long as they're above 50% hit points, they're going to have a whopping 50 melee defense and 38 melee attack. Now, that weapon strength, when we take a look at it, there's actually a decent bit of armor piercing in it. It's not full-on armor piercing, but out of a 32 damage, 10 of it is armor piercing. So they really will be decent in melee. Now, of course, you're not going to want to just throw them into melee. It's probably not going to be a good use of them because of their cost, but they can deal some massive damage with these Bows of Avalorn. So that's going to be a quick overview of the units. What should you use the Sisters of Avalorn for? Well, if it's campaign, get as many as you can afford. Use them up. Put them behind an elite infantry line, and these sisters are going to melt monsters in elite infantry, no problem, from range. Now, if you're in a multiplayer match, they're going to be expensive. If you bring the Sisters of Avalorn, you're going to have some protection, and there's going to have to be a specific purpose for them. Yes, they are a decent melee combatant, but that's absolutely not where you're going to want to put them. You're going to want to use every last single volley of those huge armor-piercing missiles. They will be very good against units that regenerate because of their flaming damage. They will be very good against units with high armor because of the armor-piercing. They will be very good at sniping out lords. but they are going to be very expensive. They're the same cost as Way Watchers, but remember, the Sisters of Avelorn cannot fire while moving, and they don't have a 360-degree firing arc, so the use of them is going to have to be a little different than you might a Way Watcher. I hope this gave you all some good insight into Alarielle the Radiant. Coming up soon, I'm going to cover her campaign start position. Like I said, we'll also be covering the same units, or Lord and unit for Crone Halibron. So I hope this has been a useful introduction of Alarielle the Radiant. We'll also be covering soon this free LC Lord, Alith Anar. If I said it right, I may or may not. This is a very interesting one. Keep an eye out. We'll be talking through him soon, as well as Crone Halibron. I will see you all in the next video. Tell me what questions you have in the chat. I will try to answer it for you, and I hope you have a good evening.